Moving on to a little bit of sadder gaming news. I kind of alluded to this, but I just felt like it was kind of important to talk about. Between me and you, at least, James, I know we're both kind of PlayStation heads.
Yeah.
And all that. So I kind of alluded to this in your chat as well. I know Steph was talking about it. PlayStation announced laying off 900 people across Insomniac, Naughty Dog, Guerrilla, and more, and closing the London studio. Sony Interactive Entertainment has announced layoffs at various PlayStation first-party studios, including Insomniac Games, Marvel Spider-Man, Naughty Dog, The Last of Us Part 2, Guerrilla Games, guys behind Horizon Forbidden West, and Firesprite. It is also closing London Studio, the team behind PlayStation VR's Blood and Truth and VR Worlds. In a statement released by head of PlayStation Studios Hermen Hulst, he seems to cite overgrowth as the reason for layoffs. PlayStation's technology, creative, and support teams are also affected by these layoffs, according to Hulst. He writes, these are in addition to some smaller reductions in other teams across PlayStation Studios. These layoffs will result in a 8% reduction of staff, or around 900 people losing their jobs. He continues, stating growth itself is not ambition, likely alluding to the overgrowth within the PlayStation Studios as a reason for the layoffs. Hulst also says PlayStation has looked at its studios and portfolio to evaluate projects in various stages of development and has decided that some of them will not move forward. Now, I think the first question to kind of discuss is what's the solution? What fixes this? Why are there so many layoffs? And are the layoffs going to improve PlayStation as a company, or is it slowly kind of deteriorating it?
So I've been listening to a couple of cats who are in the know more than I am when it comes to these type of news in the gaming industry, but particularly why. And a lot of people don't realize that during the pandemic, companies were paying a lot of money to developers and employees to make these games so we can have something to entertain people. People were playing at home. People were not going out. So video games were blowing up. Everybody remembers, all the games that everybody played during that time period, with Among Us and Fall Guys, and even the Nintendo Switch game that
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, exactly.
That's how we kept each other sane.
Exactly. And so these publishers, these companies will put in a lot of money into these developers and stuff to make these games and stuff. And what you're finding out is they put more money in than what they actually had. And so you're seeing that they're not getting their money back, and they can't afford to keep all the people they had on that they originally did. And so one person said it's going to get worse. We've had 6,000 layoffs in the first couple of months of 2024. Just in the first couple of months. There's only been 2 months, and they've had 6,000 layoffs in the gaming industry. I think it was a total of 14 or 15,000 last year, maybe even 9 in between that when we closed out 2023. And so a way to fix it is, honestly, people are looking at live service games because you get a steady stream of revenue from live service, whether it's through battle passes, cosmetics, and other aspects. There's a reason mobile games are still flourishing. It's because they get a steady revenue of income with microtransactions and in-game purchases. We as gamers don't appreciate it, but if it's a good game, people will spend money on it. That being said, making games is expensive. And the more hardware gets advanced, the more money they're going to start putting into having to develop a game. So a game like Spider-Man 1 might have cost $100 million. I believe Spider-Man 2 was north of $200 million. And it's steady going up just to make these games and stuff because everybody wants to up the ante and stuff. So I've heard rumors that Grand Theft Auto 6 could be close to over $1 to $2 billion to make. These are just rumors people are throwing out there because they know it's expensive to make a game. Think of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, that a lot of people are just claiming is a flop right now based off of what even the WB Games head sales rep had even said as like this is a flop in comparison to what they made last year. Now that's not fair because it was Hogwarts Legacy and it made 12 like $1 million. It sold 12 million units in the first 3 weeks. But it's kind of hard to make games right now. And live service games, yes, you can make money off of it, but if it's not good, then nobody's going to do it. And you're competing with other live service games that have been here already. Fortnite, Call of Duty, just to name a few. And so Rocksteady is going to be in trouble. And so a way to fix it, I mean, people are looking at live service stuff and everything, but just like with the movies, make cheaper games that are great stories and bring people in. Power World is blowing up right now. Helldivers is blowing up right now. All of those are games you can play with other people. Start there. Look at the formula they're bringing. Look at what people want to play and spend time playing. If you can focus on that and not rely on what you think we want, but literally looking at what we're buying and purchasing and picking up, I think that's a good place to start. So, what about you?
Yeah, with me, it's like the way I looked at it, especially with what we're reading here, with all these studios getting layoffs, and then the big thing being London shutting down their doors. And for those who don't know, the London studio was working on a lot of the VR stuff, and frankly, every time I do a Game Awards or showcase of some kind, like with PlayStation, we react to it, the chat and me including grown at the VR section because not everybody wants to play VR. There's a big percentage that don't care or just don't simply have the room
or the money.
Yeah, it's there was no love for PSVR, so it's no surprise that the London studio shut down because there's just no one who wants to do it. I look at this as like the Disney situation we had last year of it going downhill and Bob Iger having to be Superman or Spider-Man, I love them both, and saving the day, but also have to lay off people and say, okay, let's look at this and kind of slow down. So I think it's more of a idea of the comparison of quantity and quality.
Yeah,
I think they're trying to do too much. I always mention that PlayStation is a kind of boutique console with very special, types of games, which are eventually going to be merging onto Xbox and stuff that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a situation of just trying to bring quality back into games because again, look how many flops you kind of talk about nowadays and all that. So I think like the MCU that we complain about every week, we need to start thinking about the quality that we used to have and not the quantity and dropping all these different titles. Like I can remember from what I remember, all the VR titles are all horror games and me and you don't like horror games. So we're not going to play your VR game because we don't like that.
Exactly.
I'll easily do a Quidditch like VR or like a Harry Potter or Hogwarts Legacy VR would be insane. Like that's cool, but you guys aren't making titles that we enjoy, and I think that's why you're kind of losing a lot of heads here because you're not making the money that you used to.
Stefe with a good point. We as consumers need to own our part of that as well. If we demand a supply, consumers as a whole are extremely demanding and often want unreasonable or unrealistic things that cost more than it should. So I'm of two minds on that. Yeah, we as consumers do play a part in that. I think it's more so in original gaming. So what I mean by original gaming, original IPs or new IPs. The reason we keep getting the same stuff is because the other stuff works. And with layoffs like this and money being starting to be tight, you can't take as many risks anymore, i.e., Rocksteady with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. So I think that's where we play our part. In regards to demanding, I Bald I don't agree as much because Baldur's Gate 3 won everything. And that's a turn-based game that not a lot of people are into, but the story is there and the overall just immersion is there that a lot of people who weren't into D&D or into turn-based games bought it and played it because it did something nobody expected. So if you want, I think giving us a title we know, but then doing something that we wasn't expecting, I think is a way to try new stuff while also giving us something we know that people are going to buy and know that we want. Like even the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. You thought like, hey, it's going to be more of a Breath of the Wild, and it completely changed everything also. So I think you could start there with giving us titles that we know we're going to buy, but trying new things with those titles. And then if it works, start building off of that with the style of gameplay or mechanics that you introduce. And if it doesn't, go back to the drawing board and start over. But it's hard to blame it on the consumers, especially with everything is getting tighter now. We don't have as much money as we had used to. Inflation is a thing. And so it's kind of hard to blame consumers, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Like we just start with the Switch too. Like how many of us are actually going to have that,
Yeah.
unless us as content creators like weasel our way in and be like, can we get an advanced copy of hardware to dev kit or something? But yeah, it's like no one's gonna afford it. And games are so expensive now. $70. Yep. $70 for a game. I was like, the last few games I've played are either on Game Pass or given to me as a code or something. You know what I mean? It's just like they are expensive because you look at it, I'm like, oh man, yeah, like I would love to play, Suicide Squad, but I watched you play it for a few weeks and I thought it looked fun. Looked like you were having fun. I think it's a very fun game, but I don't think it's a $70 game.
It's not.
It's
or $100 game if you got it 3 days early.
Yeah,
access.
Imagine that. Like you paid $100 to
and
like
then the day
do
one, like you can't get online.
That's right. Yeah, it was a mess. Oh man, yeah, and and now I know Skull and Bones just kind of has that half and half kind of thing too, where it's like it's cool, it's not, but so yes, it's some of these games again, like it's like they're not worth $70. Like I'll play a Suicide Squad for $40, or something like that. I'll play a whatever, something like a GTA 6, $70, sure, maybe $80 at that point. You know what I mean?
Talking about more, but yeah,
it's like I mean, once it gets $100, man, I don't know. That's gonna flatline the gaming community, I think, because like, who's gonna $100? I have to really make a like serious like thought in my head to spend $100 on anything. I go grocery shopping, I look at $100. I'm like, am I not hungry? Do I need all these eggs? Do I need all these frozen quesadillas? So it's like, imagine like, man, we'd be screwed trying to cover games that like if we can't get codes to them, then we're like, oh shit, I got to dish out $100.
Yeah,
that's like my rent or something. Like that's insanity.
It's crazy. Like it's life happens, man, and like I think that's why Game Pass is going to eventually be the future, because you get that subscription-based plan and you get to play a lot of day one games like immediately. The only thing with Game Pass is PC. PC parts
Mm.
are still expensive to play the game effectively. And if you don't know what you're doing, getting a PC and PC gaming can be daunting at times. And so a lot of people reason they like consoles is because it's easy access and it's you can just hop in the game, plug it in, and go from there. So even though subscription based, I think with Game Pass is going to be the future and might help with cost. Um, PlayStation isn't slowing down when it comes to their consoles. Neither is Nintendo. And so it's going to be interesting to see which one of these other console wars is going to win out and go with the subscription based idea as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's the way it's gotta be the way to the future. It's like they'll be like their Netflix, you know, just like any game, go back. They, PlayStation's kind of trying to implement that. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. That thing being said, we hope that these laid off people find some work. I see a lot of people like talking to me like on Twitter, like oh, Avalanche is hiring a lot of people. What's that mean? Is there DLC there? And I'm like, no, it's because nobody has jobs. They want to hire people.
Well, they got space to hire people because the game they put out killed it. Like in an industry that is always losing positions and firing cats, Avalanche is hiring like crazy right now.
Yeah.
And so
everybody,
it could be the same for other companies if you put out a good game, man. Like that's it. Like Naughty Dog was working on a live service game and had to stop 5 years. I think it's at least 4+ years of development of a live service Last of Us game. They stopped all that money, 5 years worth, all those employees, all that tech, all the stuff they paid for, even the rent on the building system, all that they paid for, gone. So they can go and focus on narrative single player games. That's why this stuff is like failing. Stuff like that.
I just please PlayStation gods and video game gods. So the other one I've been seeing a lot too is IO Interactive. They're looking for a lot of people too. But the game they're trying to sell them to come work on is Project 007. And I'm like, please, if I could, I wish I could. I looked at some of the jobs. I'm like, I probably can't do any of this, but I can tell you some James Bond trivia and help you make a good game. But like, other than that, it's like, yeah, like I'm scared for the future because I'm like, there's like, we had this hint of him saying it here, the head of PlayStation. There's games he's looking at in the portfolio that like we're probably not going to move forward with. There's probably going to be games that we never even knew about that are not going to exist anymore.
Yep.
A freaking proper X-Men game where I can play as Cyclops or something, like who knows? But again, shout out to those workers. We hope you guys find some work. I want to see you guys in the credits again, man. Come on back.
Seriously, we need to like, hey, hire Mario, and then Avalanche hired me for storyboards, and
we're there.
Let's go.
Me and James will single-handedly save the video game world. Just hire us. We're here for you guys. Please.
We're a wealth of knowledge.
We're here. Use our minds.